Okay, so I had actually started discussing about a person called Bruce Lipton. Perhaps you have not heard of him, right? So he is a major scientist who researches in the area of genes and how environment affects genes and how mind affects genes. So we have been discussing him a lot in the last two sessions. So I think you are not there. So I will continue in that vein because other people have been watching that. So basically, what we have been doing last few classes, we are starting to explore the subconscious mind. I know how the subconscious mind, influences our behavior and our actions and our thought process. There are two parts of the mind. One is conscious, other is subconscious. So what Bruce Lipton explains is that only 5% of the time we are acting out of the conscious awareness in a given day, and remaining 95% of the time we act from the subconscious mind, which is basically the programmed patterns of thought and behavior in the unconscious mind. So, and that basically explains why most people have very high aspirations, dreams, hopes, but since their subconscious mind is not programmed in a way which supports their dreams or goals or ambitions, they are not able to achieve that. Okay. So this particular theme is now, I'll show a few more videos. I'll introduce new experts to the, group. So today I'll introduce you to Robert Proctor or Bob Proctor. So he was basically a very powerful teacher in this area. Okay, and he will explain very powerfully in a couple of videos, how to reprogram the subconscious mind and how the subconscious mind gets created in the first place. And he is one of the most clear, people who explains these things in very clear and very attractive manner. Very great teacher. You want to ask something, Hemant? I see hand.
I have 2 points to share with you. First one, I heard about Bob Proctor. He's a very famous person over YouTube, and many people know.
Secondly, you have heard about him.
Bob Proctor.
Okay.
Secondly, you said you gave the data of 95% and 5%, right, sir? But I think I believe my golden number is 99.99. So 90.
Yeah, I understand. Don't feel demotivated. It's tough to run the mind with a conscious control, conscious awareness. That is what you're trying to achieve. If your subconscious mind could become aligned with your conscious desires and goals and dreams, then you can achieve wonders in life. That is what I'm trying to share now.
Yeah.
So I will go to a video which I will share. Okay. So just give me one moment.
There's no great technology. I'm going to use a flip chart because I want this to be in real time, and I want to explain something to you that not many people really understand. I want to talk about the law of attraction. Do you know that the law of attraction is always working? It's like the law of gravity. If I let this go, it's going to go down. It's never going to go back up. It's going to go down. That is the law of gravity. Anything heavier than Earth is attracted towards the center of the world. Well, the law of attraction is always working. Now, how does it work? Well, I use a diagram to explain the mind. Now, let this circle represent your mind. And let this little circle here represent your body. Now, I want you to think of this for a moment. Your body is a molecular structure. This is a massive energy and a very high speed of vibration. If you looked at your body through a microscope, you'd see that energy dancing right before your eyes. And here's something that'll keep you thinking for the next 20 years. When you move out of it, the body does not stop moving. If you go to a funeral parlor and pick up the remains and look at it, you will see it moving. And if it wasn't moving, how would it ever change to dust? You move into your body and you will move out of it. And it's how you use your mind that's going to dictate the vibration you're in. Now stay with me. You have an imaginary line right across here, and that separates the conscious mind from the subconscious mind. Now the subconscious mind has been programmed. When you were a little baby, this is the way it was. You were just like this. Subconscious mind wide open, and everything that was going on around it went right in there. And all the energy that went in there when you were just a little baby formed something called a paradigm. Now, a paradigm is information. It's a multitude of habits. You are the product of your environment. But prior to that, you were the product of a genetic strain that goes back for generations. Now, I'm going to say that the paradigm is X-type energy. Now, you've got the ability here on a conscious level to think. And you can think anything you want to think. And as you think, you build ideas. There's a power that's flowing into your consciousness. It never stops. It flows to and through you. You can actually photograph this power leaving you. It flows to and through you. Now, as it flows in, you will start thinking, and you'll probably think X-type thoughts. Therefore, you're going to be in an X-type vibration. And that will produce X-type results. Now, it's the results you want to change. And to change the results, you're going to have to change what you attract. You see, the thoughts that you think control the vibration that you're in. Vibration is nothing but an idea. It's a law of the universe. Everything vibrates, nothing rests. We live in an ocean of motion. And it's the thoughts that you're thinking that you impress upon your subconscious mind that control the vibration the body's in. And that dictates how you act, but it also dictates what you attract. You attract energy that's in harmony with you. You attract people that are in harmony with you. You see, everything operates on frequencies. There's an infinite number of frequencies, but you and I operate on a frequency, just like a radio station does. And the only music you can attract is the music that is tuned into the vibration you're in. Now, it's the paradigm that has been controlling the vibration. You can change your thinking, but that doesn't do anything. You got to change the paradigm. And if you don't change the paradigm, nothing happens. Now, talking about paradigms is another subject. We'll do that at another time. But it's the thoughts that you think that control the vibration you're in, and that dictates what you attract. So if you keep attracting what you don't want, understand this. It's the paradigm that's causing the problem. You can think a Y-type thought, which is totally different than the X-type conditioning. It isn't going to go anywhere. Because when you go to get emotionally involved, and this is the emotional mind, when you go to get emotionally involved with that Y-type thought, the paradigm will kick it out. You know why? It's so uncomfortable. That's stepping out of the box. That's doing things different. And we don't like to do things different because it causes a lot of discomfort. But understand this. The paradigm and the thinking control the vibration you're in. And the vibration you're in is going to dictate what you attract. People that are in a poverty consciousness will continue to attract lack and limitation. It has nothing to do with this, what's going on here. This is your educated mind, and you could gather all kinds of information. Have you ever wondered why some people have such an educated mind? They have degrees coming right off the end of their business card, but it doesn't show up in their results. Why? Paradigm. The law of attraction. You've got to change this. You've got to change the vibration you're in, and your whole world changes. Listen, in 1961, a man gave me this book, and he said, do exactly what I tell you. He was giving me Y-type ideas. It caused an enormous amount of discomfort, but I did exactly what he said. And you know something? My income went from $4,000 to $175,000 in a year, and then I took it over $1 million. It took me 9.5 years to figure out what happened. This is what I'm showing you. Watch this over and over and over again. There's a number of lessons in here. And another lesson, I'm going to show you how to change the paradigm. When you change the paradigm, the change in results is automatic. You know why? You start to attract something new, something different. And what we want to do is program in positive information and eliminate the negative. And I'm going to show you how to do that. Law of attraction. You attract according to the vibration you're in. This thing we live in is a molecular structure. Your body is a mass of energy. Do you know if you put your body in front of an infrared television camera in a completely dark room, your whole being would be nothing but a glistening, radiating, gleaming form? Feeling is conscious awareness of the vibration we're in. When we don't feel good, we're in a negative vibration. You want to feel good? Move into a positive vibration. Stop and think of what you're grateful for. But understand this. You will never attract to you wealth, happiness, health until you get the paradigm, get you on that frequency. It's Bob Proctor, and thank you.
So I hope the video was clear, right? Okay, Sneha and Saju, I think you came a little bit late. Did you see the whole video, Saju, or at what point did you join?
No, sir. I joined in between, I think around after 10 minutes.
Oh, Sneha, you could see the video, follow what
Same
he
here,
said,
sir. I joined in between.
or you couldn't
Uh,
follow the whole thing. Anyways, I'll unpack for you what he's saying. So,
sure. Thank you so much.
so today I am introducing another person, no, to the class called Bob Proctor. Like I introduced Bruce Lipton, right? Similarly, so in this area there are some prominent people, who have contributed a lot. So this is another great personality who has contributed a lot to this area, right? How to understand the subconscious mind, how to reprogram it. So I introduced him to you. I'll show one more video by him. And this video, he's talking when he was way, way younger than, in this video. In this video is 80 plus. In the next video I will show you, he will be around age 60, 55 to 60. Okay. Anyways, I'll in a very brief summary, tell you what he's telling in this particular short video that you just saw. So what he mentioned was that, one is that we are basically, in a way, uh, being with multiple components. One is the body, which is a very dense physical matter, right? But behind this body or within this body, there is a mind, which we are using to run our life. Now, this mind is composed of two compartments or two portions or two parts. One is the conscious mind with which we are aware and we take conscious decisions. We can visualize the consequences of our decisions. It is an intelligent mind. Okay. It is a very aware mind. It is this part of the mind which makes us superior to other species. Right. This is called the conscious mind. But unfortunately, only 5% of our life is, in control of the conscious mind. And 95% of the times, as Bruce Lipton explained earlier, we are acting out of our subconscious or unconscious mind. And he explains in the beginning how this unconscious mind or subconscious mind develops in the childhood. In the first 5-6 years of life, we are in a theta state of mind. All children are in something called theta state of mind. I have earlier explained that there are different, states in which the mind can function, starting with beta, then alpha, then gamma, theta, delta. These are the 5, states in which the brain can function. These 5 states are determined based upon the frequency at which the gray matter in the brain is vibrating. When the gray matter in the brain vibrates at a very high frequency of 25 cycles per second or more, it is said to be in the beta state of mind. So beta state of mind is the state of mind in which we do our day-to-day work. We solve math problems, we solve office problems, we do our office job, we sell a product, or our normal day-to-day work, from where we get our money, is basically performed using the beta state of mind, where the brain gray matter is vibrating at 25 cycles or faster. So it is a more excitable state of mind, not very calm. Faster the gray matter vibrates, more excited we are generally, right? Then as we calm down more, the gray matter starts to vibrate less fast. It reaches somewhere around, 10 to 15 cycles per second. That is called alpha state of mind. Now, alpha state of mind is a state of mind when you are perhaps watching a movie or listening to some music, or you are simply relaxing. Okay, you are not using your brain to solve something complicated. In that state of mind, when you are very peaceful, it's the alpha state of mind. Okay, in the alpha state of mind, your memory is more powerful. It is very easy for you to remember things for a much longer time when you learn something in alpha state of mind. In the alpha state of mind, the brain functions much more nicely and much more smoothly. Your decision making is much, much better. Okay, because you are in a more peaceful state of mind. Then, we have gamma, and gamma is a basically state of mind not accessible to most people. Only very advanced meditators can access that. But normal people don't use it much, or not able to use it much. And then, there is theta state of mind, which is what is relevant for the children. So children till age 6 are in theta state of mind. A theta state of mind is a state of mind where the gray matter is vibrating at around 3 to 5 cycles per second. That's a very, very relaxed state. It is like, a state in which we see dreams. When we are dreaming in the night, we are in the theta state of mind. That is why you will see small children are great dreamers. They live in their own world of imagination. They love, cartoons. They love movies. They love, all kinds of, stories, because they have rich imagination. Okay, they have a fantasy world in which children live. So in that state of mind, what happens is you have a very powerful memory and long-term memory. Whatever imprints on the mind in the theta state lasts virtually for a lifetime. So just imagine children in the theta state of mind for the first 6 years of life, how much amount of information they have received, which they are storing for a lifetime. Now, as we grow older after 6 years of age, as we become grown-ups, slowly, what we learn in the alpha and the beta state through our conscious education in schools and colleges, that forms a superficial layer in the brain. But what we have absorbed in the childhood forms the deep core of the brain. So the core beliefs of our life is stored in the deepest part of the brain because it was received in the theta state. Now, what is stored in the theta state is not accessible to us normal adults unless we are able to dig deep into our brain using very powerful meditation techniques. Are you able to follow so far? Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Am I clear? Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So that is why it is very difficult for us to recall childhood memories. They are there. The childhood memories are very much there, and they form the core belief pattern, which causes us to react and to behave unconsciously. But we don't have conscious access to that programming, very powerful and very huge amount of programming. 6 years of programming is not a small thing, right? You'll imagine, isn't it? So in those 6 years, whatever you have absorbed in terms of your father's thinking style, your mother's thinking style, your father's personality, mother's personality, your siblings, your teachers, your school, your friends in the neighborhood, the movies that you watched, the cartoon movies that you watched, everything, stories that you read, everything that you heard, grandmother telling you stories during bedtime, all that has gone deep inside the deepest part of the brain. And that is what forms the subconscious mind. And that determines the 95% of our unconscious thought processes which take over. Okay. And sabotage our life more often than not, because what we receive in childhood obviously is not going to be conducive to great amount of wisdom, because the childish brain will make a very childish sense of data, right? That is why most people, even though they are grown up, they still behave like children when it comes to emotional maturity. Many people, many people, because unless you make a conscious effort to refine your thought process, you will not be able to refine this programming that you received in childhood. Is this point clear? It's very, very important point to understand.
Yes, sir.
Would you agree with me that many adults show very childish traits still?
Yes, sir. Even I could relate to my own character. Sometimes, like, I could understand. I used to think, from where do I get this kind of, behavior, especially when I lose my temper. I could relate, sir.
Yeah, and in your observation, other adults also that you see around you in your, you may have been observing
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
many people, right?
I thought like till now I thought it could be based because of genetics, because I could see parents' own character in children, even amongst grown-up adults. But now I understood the reason.
So it is, yeah, it is partly genes also, as Bruce Lipton explained, but also the fact that the genetic programming gets reinforced through environmental programming, because parents constitute an important part of the child's environment, because most children are at home, no, in the beginning of their life. So parents are obviously, very important and dominant part of the environment. So the programming that they receive from parents constitutes a large part of their unconscious programming. So you're right in that. So in a way, the genes of the parents get reinforced by the behavior of the parents further. So there's double influence of parents and grandparents, right? So
Yes.
anyways, that was one point he made. So that he called the paradigm in the two circles he was making. I mean, the two parts of the circle that he was making. The top part was the conscious mind and the bottom part was the unconscious mind or subconscious mind. There he made a small circle called the P, paradigm. So he was telling that the paradigm P, which is basically the programming received in childhood, let's call it as X type thoughts. The programming that you received in childhood, it will keep reproducing X type thoughts. Let's say that I am not very intelligent, I am not very good looking, or for some reason unfortunate things happen to me, or if I try something significant, taking some risk, it may result in a failure, or I am very bright, I am very brilliant, whatever it is, whether for good or for bad. These kinds of belief systems which constitute your paradigm, everyone has a paradigm composed of different types of beliefs. Okay, once this is in place, it will keep producing thoughts of its own type. We often see that we are thinking thoughts of a particular type, which determines our personality. These dominant thought patterns that different individuals display sets their mood, sets their temperament, sets the way they react to the stimuli in the environment. So that is how we recognize that this is Sneha's personality. She is like that. She is very friendly, very industrious, very bright, whatever, or very trustworthy. Or someone else, this person is little bit slow in learning, or he's a free rider, or very insincere. No, we form these perceptions based upon the kind of behavior that people display. But these behaviors often come from this P, paradigm P, what has happened in the childhood. That is producing that dominant part of the behavior, which we call the dominant personality traits. Is this part clear?
Yes.
Saju, Hemant?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this P produces X type thoughts. Now, if we are having a paradigm or P which is not supportive of excellence or great amount of career success, it is not composed of very wonderful beliefs which are conducive for our success, then we will often feel anxiety, we will feel low self-confidence, we will feel, as if some fate is conspiring against us. And as is our belief, so is our vibration. That's the next point he explains, law of attraction. So our body is vibrating at a certain frequency. And the frequency at which the body vibrates is also a great amount determined by the frequency of our thoughts. So if our X-type thoughts are of low frequency, negative in nature, our body will experience hormones which are conducive to heaviness or low self-confidence, low energy, gloomy, etc. And body may also have low immunity, may frequently fall ill, may feel very sleepy, may feel very lethargic, may not have a very good utilization of the brain power, may be a slow learner, and all that is happening because of the X-type thoughts coming out of X-type beliefs. And X-type beliefs which have been shaped in the childhood. If we were not parented very well, we'll spend a lot of time, later in parenting, trying to understand what is the good parenting. So if our parents were not very enlightened, they did not, parent us very well, so we may have this X type of thoughts which are of negative quality. So our vibration becomes low quality, low frequency, affecting the body and affecting the mind and affecting the outlook towards life. And as a result, in a way, we have programmed ourselves for failure, unhappiness, dissatisfaction, frustration, misfortune. Are you with me in this part?
Yes, sir.
Saju, Hemant, please confirm. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Or can I
Yes,
explain?
sir.
It's
Yes,
clear,
sir.
right? Okay. So you will notice some people become very nervous before an interview. very nervous before a presentation. Palms may be sweating, heart may be palpitating. They may, be forced to go to the loo again and again. Have you noticed some people like that? Or maybe, you know, sometimes you yourself might have experienced that when you're very nervous. Yes,
So,
no.
are all these kind of traits just mainly because of paradigm, sir?
Because of what, Sneha? Last word I couldn't follow.
Because of paradigm?
Yes, yes,
Can, okay, sir.
yes. That is why these classes can be very useful, because what I am now sharing, through these sessions is my aim is to transform each one of us into wonderful, enlightened human beings. Okay. And to break free from these unconscious patterns. That's my objective. Okay.
Sir, I
Everyone,
have. Sir, can I say something now?
yeah, please. Yeah. Okay. Is
Okay.
it okay if you switch on video a little bit, for me to feel a little bit energy? Those who can afford to switch on. Okay.
Sir.
So my toddler is here, so she'll be just
It's okay,
moving
because
around.
I feel like talking to a wall right now, because everyone has switched off the video. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Yeah, please, Rajiv. Yeah.
Okay. Sir, in my case, I have experienced that I was more attractive towards, I was very much intimate towards my grandmother. So rather than I have heard stories from my parents, my mother and father, I was spending more time in my childhood along with my grandmother. And she used to tell many stories, especially related to black magic. So, in my childhood days, this was very much indoctrinated into my brain that black magic is very strong, bhood, pret, all these concepts were very much into my mind, and I was literally afraid of everything. And my mother always used to shout at me, though my mother was not so educated, she always tells me, please do not hear all these stories. Nothing is true. Why you are interested in all these stories so much? All these things. So over a period of time, later on when I developed a certain amount of, let me say, intellectual awareness or something like that. So my attention has deviated more towards spirituality, and I started hearing the stories Bhagavad Saptah or Bhagavad Gita Yajna, something like that. Then I started knowing more about these positive aspects of spirituality, and at least I am now confident to say that I really do not believe in this black magic or this booth pret concept and all. So at this stage, I'm not saying that I'm really not afraid of it, but I'm saying I'm not interested to know about it, because somewhere I started developing interest in God and to know about God, to know the better practices to worship God. All these things I have started developed. So the friend about whom I was talking to you in the previous class, sir, that person who always very negative in his life, who firmly believes that everything is going to be a disastrous event in his life. That is his firm belief. And around 10 years we have been together. I have not even seen a single good incident happening with that guy. And his belief was almost, it was getting firmer and firmer, and events were also happening in that way. Now if once I always used to tell him, see, I am also coming from a very poor background, a very backward village. I have also heard about all these stories of black magic, bhoot preda and all these things, but over a period of time I have developed this means my knowledge level has taken to next level, and then I realized all these things are foolish. So why don't you put up this effort? So the word which you have used here, in order to change our paradigmatic means concepts, we really need to make conscious efforts. So that conscious efforts, I believe in this particular aspect, I have taken that conscious effort and I have got out of that paradigmatic bound. This is my experience.
Okay. So you may have got out to a large extent, but not completely, because that's
Sir.
not that easy.
Sure. I agree, sir. I
Yeah. So what happens? No, like what Robert Proctor was explaining is that when we try to change our attitude, or what we say our nature, what happens is that these X-type thoughts coming out of X-type beliefs, they collide with the new Y-type thoughts or Y-type beliefs that you are trying to learn. Let's say that you start to read some excellent books, Bhagavad Gita and such things you told, right? Or very powerful books. like I also share in my courses different books, and these books start to have an influence over you because they have some power, right? These books have a lot of wisdom. So you start to learn and you start to say, yeah, that is right, that is right, that is good, and you want to learn these things into your own personality. But then what happens is that this paradigm that you have set in the childhood, which produces a certain set of thoughts, that paradigm starts to collide with the new kind of paradigm that you are trying to install in your system. And because you are trying to study things now in the beta and the alpha state of mind at best, because theta state of mind not accessible to you, as a result of that, thoughts coming to you in beta and alpha state cannot override what has been grafted in the theta state. It is impossible, because what has gone in the theta state has gone very deep into the brain. What is called the core beliefs. I'll give some examples also. So it's next to impossible to override the beliefs engraved on the brain in the childhood. That's what he's trying to say. And it requires tremendous amount of effort and lot of knowledge and awareness and lot of self-love and persistent effort to change one's personality. Now, unfortunately, these days what is happening is that people are able to earn easy money because average standards have gone up. In the last 25, 30 years, because of liberalization, money flowing into the economy has increased. So as a result of that, most people are able to buy things which they normally need for their day-to-day life and for their enjoyment. So entertainment, which is very easily available, is a major barrier to self-development, because that way you are able to distract yourself into such activities. YouTube shorts and all kinds of things these days are there to occupy your mind. IPL matches or some tamasha is going on all the time. So you are able to distract yourself very easily. So you go to office in the morning, come in the evening tired, watch a little bit TV and do this and scrolling or YouTube something, and then you go to sleep. You don't have much time, right? Generally, failure is not there because you're getting decent amount of money, and generally life is going on. So people don't get the time and space to think that I'm not experiencing my optimum self. I'm not experiencing the true happiness. People confuse pleasure with happiness. It is only when some misfortune happens or a series of setbacks happen or an illness happens, only then people realize that something wrong with me. Or I'm not resilient enough, or I'm not able to cope. People become very anxious, frustrated, angry, etc. So that is one. Second is that since everyone around us is exhibiting a lot of negative traits like anger, jealousy, fear, pride, arrogance, and we also are exhibiting the same thing, it seems like normal. It is like in a society where everyone is 3 feet tall, where average height should be, let's say, 5.5 to 6 feet, it seems 3 feet tall is normal. In a society where you find no one who is self-actualized or self-realized or enlightened, and everyone is a little bit neurotic or a lot, to a large extent, then it seems like as if neurosis is normal. It seems like anger is normal. It seems like hatred is normal. It seems like violence is normal. It seems like frustration is normal. It seems like anxiety is normal. It seems like worrying is normal. It seems like wasting time in quintals is normal. You see what I'm saying? So when the masses are programmed in the childhood itself, then a great psychologist like Sigmund Freud can afford to claim that personality gets fixed at age 6. Now you can see Sigmund Freud's greatness, that through power of observation, he reached a conclusion which is validated by modern science. So he did not know all this theta state of mind or what modern science is now sharing. He had no access to such data. But through his power of intuition, power of observation, he saw that most people, personality gets fixated at age 6. And now it is being verified by modern science. Okay. But then all is not lost. So what is working in our favor is that there is an area in neurology which is emerging as a very exciting area of research, It is called neuroplasticity. Our brain is fortunately not rigid. It is plastic. We can rewire our brain dominant patterns by paying conscious attention, by raising our awareness. That is why awareness is so important. That is why someone like me has spent almost a lifetime teaching these things and learning these things, because I feel this is the most important thing to understand. But for some strange reason, it is not a very prevalent thought pattern. People think that these things are weird things. Why should I focus upon myself? I am doing well, I'm happy, I'm healthy, I'm married, I have 2 children, I have a good job. I can go to America, I can go to Japan, I can go to France, I can go to watch IPL match. I have a television, big theater, home theater, car, scooter, everything is there with me. What is wrong with me? You see, people are thinking that collecting objects and having a pleasurable life is good enough, right? But if a time comes in future when really it becomes difficult to survive, and really we start to go through a depression, economic depression, where a lot of people are being laid off because of AI or because of whatever, then suddenly we will see that the quality of our mind and the quality of our character will become very important. Are you following me?
Yes,
In
sir.
tough times, when times become tough, we will realize the value of developing a great character, which we are trying to achieve. Okay, yes, Hemant?
Yeah, sir. Actually, I am getting your trying to get what you are saying, and I believe one day in IIM, I was thinking why we are suffering, why as a whole country we are suffering, and I come to know one reason of many reasons, and that is our if it see our education system, it is based on survival. Okay, sir. It means we teach only that kind of education where we can survive in this world, not the next level of education system like in Japan and you were telling in Norway or Netherlands like countries. So that's why because of this surviving education system, we are not able to go in the next level, sir. That's all.
So I will now share another video. So this in essence was the video all about, and he says that we need to create Y-type thoughts and a Y-type paradigm, which is a enlightened paradigm and more powerful positive thoughts, 100% of the time, all the time. From morning till night, we should be in a positive space of powerful brain, powerful mind. We should not be defeated by the environment, by the circumstances, by adversity. And we should not be reacting to life. We should create our destiny. That is our capacity as a human being. If we wake up, all of us will have a beautiful life. And if most of us wake up, this whole planet will become a heaven. That is human potential, God given potential. But as Hemant told, because of lack of proper education, lack of proper awareness, we are not able to tap into our tremendous potential. Okay. So next video again by Bob Proctor. Now here, the most important thing why I'm showing is, there are many reasons, but one of the main reasons is that one technique which he shares about changing the subconscious mind, which he followed, which made him a world famous teacher from a very shy and underconfident person as a young man. Okay. And when he learned these new skills, his earning went up from $4,000 per year to $1,75,000 in 1 year. So Hemant, for you also, it's a very important person to know. Income can shoot up like anything. You don't need to worry about the job or the salary. You just focus upon yourself. Why? Because this universe functions according to what is called law of attraction. If you have a $4,000 frequency, you get $4,000. But if you have $1 million frequency, you automatically will start getting $1 million. That's the idea. You create the new person inside you and don't worry about the career outside. It will be taken care of by God or by Almighty naturally. That is what I was trying to tell you, Hemant, today. God doesn't work in the way that you imagine. God only gives to those who deserve. So God functions through law of attraction. Okay. And this person is one of the best teachers of law of attraction. So let us see what he is going to teach. Okay. Just give me a moment. And when he is giving this interview, he is roughly 55 years old. Okay. So there is a gap of 30 years between the two videos. Please watch very carefully. It's a very powerful video, life-changing. Okay. Very powerful. Very, very powerful video. Okay.
You attended seminars, and you said your reason there was to learn more about yourself.
Yeah.
Can you hear the sound?
Yes.
My experience has been people attend seminars, especially self-development seminars, to look for the answer. They want to know, what is it out there I can learn so that I can be more successful? That wasn't your motivation?
No, oddly enough. And I think probably you're right. I think that's what most people are looking for. I think they're looking for an answer outside of themselves, and they're never going to find it. I think by this time I realized it was something in me. I met a man here in Toronto. He was one that originally got me involved in studying this, Ray Stanford. And he told me if I didn't like the results I was getting in my life, that I was going to have to change me because they were my results. And he said, if you're going to change you, you're going to have to find out something about yourself. And that seemed to make sense. I don't think it was an earth-shattering idea. It wouldn't give anybody a brain hernia, but it made a hell of a lot of sense to me. So I started to study myself. I found most people don't know who they are. They really don't.
What do you mean? I mean, I know my name, I know my age, I know where I live.
Yeah, that's not
what
you,
else
though.
is there?
You know, that's
what
just
size,
it. If you ask the
size?
average person who they are, they'll give you their name. They'll say, I'm Bob Proctor, but I'm not. Bob and Proctor are two words. My parents give them to me. They're called names, but it's not me. It's my name. Then somebody will say, well, this is me, but this isn't me either. It's my body. Like you never phone down here to the studio and say, body won't be in today. It's sick.
Okay.
You know, we don't say am hand or am leg. It's my hand, my leg, my body, my name. Who am I? Well, that's an interesting question. And I believe if a person will start to study that and look for the answer, they'll find it. See, I think we live simultaneously on three planes of understanding. We're spiritual creatures, we have an intellect, and we live in physical bodies.
Okay.
But because we lack awareness or understanding of who we are, we're totally locked into a physical world, and we let things outside of us control us. 95% of the population are reacting to life. They're not really living at all.
Okay. And would you call that one of the barriers to success?
Oh, there's no question about it. I think there's two barriers. Success is a funny word. Nightingale had a great definition for it. He said a person's successful if they know where they are, and they know where they're going, and they're progressively moving in that direction. He said that success was the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Anyone that has a goal, and they're moving towards it, they're successful. Most people think that you're successful if you have a lot of money. Quite often you have a lot of money if you're successful, but it isn't. I wouldn't say Mother Teresa has a lot of money.
Okay.
But she's a pretty successful lady. So it's...
okay, so that barrier to success...
Well, there's a couple of them.
Okay.
I think there's two barriers. One is our conditioning. The conditioning that takes place in our subconscious mind from the time we're infants. All we can do is act and talk like the people around us. That's why we learn the language we learned. If there was 10 languages spoken in our home, we'd learn 10 languages without any trouble. There's usually one, and that's the only one we ever learn. And we grow older and we think, oh, I couldn't learn another language. We could learn 100 if we wanted to. You can do anything. But I think we're conditioned. We have a real strong conditioning, usually with not some very good ideas. And then that's the barrier that's inside us. The one that's outside of us is our environment. We have a tendency to act like everybody around us. And if you think about this, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Because if you study statistics, 95% of the people live their entire life and never live the way they want to live. You know that 95% of the population in this country, let's say in North America, the richest continent in the history of the world, they'll work productively, let's say for 40 of their 65 years, and they'll end up with hardly any money. Well, there's got to be something wrong.
So there's not much...
5% of the people end up financially comfortable or independent.
Are you trying to depress us, Bob? Because that's
No, actually, I think it's quite an exciting idea, because you see, the idea behind it is that anybody can win, anyone at all. But if we start studying these statistics, I think we'll arrive at the conclusion, geez, I better start thinking for myself rather than follow everybody. Most people, they get a job, they look around, they see how everybody else is doing their work, and they start doing it the same way. They should stop and think, I wonder if any of these people know what they're doing. You know, is there a better way to do it?
But don't we have a need to fit in? I mean, we don't want to stand out. We don't want to get fired. We don't want to make waves.
Exactly. Just fall into line. You know, take a number. Be like everybody around. You know, that'd be great in the animal kingdom. But human beings aren't supposed to live that way. I think we should make a few waves. We should maybe stand out, be different. Not for the sake of being different, but because we are different. We all think different thoughts. And I believe we should start to think and build images in our mind of what we'd like to do and then set out and do it. Emerson did that, Edison did that, Marconi did that, Samuel Morse did that, Buckminster Fuller did that. We could go on and on and on. They were different. They stood out. They made a few waves.
You started with you saying you started with a search for yourself to try to find out more about yourself, and you were somewhat successful along the way.
Well, I didn't start it like that in the beginning. I started out, I wanted to earn a lot of money. I figured if I had enough money, I was going to cure all my problems. I found that that wasn't true. I earned a fair amount of problems or money, and I seemed to have more problems. But I after working at this for a few years, I decided that the real answer is get to know yourself a little better. And I don't think you have to go off in the Himalayas and become a guru to.
What did you do to learn about yourself? You said you went around as many seminars.
I attended seminars. I went and listened to different speakers who taught something about the mind. I think the answer is in our mind if we'll start studying and trying to understand our mind.
Let me get back to you if I can. What did you learn about Bob Proctor during that study?
Well, I learned that the biggest part of me you'll never see. It's non-physical. And what you see here in the physical body is nothing but the physical manifestation of the higher side of my personality. And of course that's true with you, and Nancy's on the camera. It's true of everyone. And what we have to study, I think, is how does this non-physical part of my mind work? What happens when I think? Where do thoughts come from? How was this chair built? Somebody had to think. Thoughts are everywhere. And we pull thoughts into our mind and we build pictures or images in our mind. What we want to understand is that's a non-physical side of ourself that's doing that. If I can build an image of something in my mind, I'm quite capable of building a physical replica of it in my world. So if I build an image of me as a happy, relaxed person, I can live like that. If I build an image of myself as being prosperous, I can become prosperous.
So if we think rich, we will be rich.
Absolutely. We're already rich, just short of money.
Those of us that like to acquire more money and or happiness or whatever we see success, those of us that want to reach the goals that we've set for ourselves, we do it first by...
Well, the first thing you do is sit down and decide what you want. If it's money you want, how much money?
Lots of money.
Well, nobody knows how much lots is. So you've got to be specific. You write down on a card exactly what you want. And you carry that card around and read it often. Now, this is what I learned in this book, Think and Grow Rich, and it's what I teach in the seminars. I'll teach people how to set goals. But you decide exactly what you want. And then you start to think. Now, you're going to have thoughts come to your mind of why you can't get it. You have the ability in your conscious mind to reject that idea, kick it out of your mind. Thinking of why you can't do something is never going to do you any good. And keep thinking until you start to think of thoughts of how you can do it. And the way will be shown to you. It comes in the form of images in our mind. Think of how you can and not why you can't.
So our first step is to set
That's the
some
first
goals.
step.
And think about how we can go about reaching those goals.
Exactly. And just think of how you can. Now, I'd say even before you get into that, you should get a good book and start to study it. Select a person who is already doing something that you'd like to do. Get to know that person. Go to the experts for advice. Don't ask the person next door, your mother, father, brother, or the guy that works beside you, because they don't necessarily know. There's no point in asking a person how to earn a lot of money if they're only earning $10,000 a year. They don't know. If they knew, they'd probably be earning a lot. It's like, don't go to a sick doctor if you want to get healthy.
Okay.
So you find someone that you can go to for advice. Get a real good book and lock into that book and start to study it. Like, I've had this one that looks like a Bible, you know. But this is Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. I've been reading this thing now for 23 years. I'll probably read it for another 23 years. I got another good book that I brought over here today. It's called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. Now, I'm not getting a commission for selling this. The author's dead now. He's been gone for a couple of years. But Dr. Joseph Murphy wrote this book, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. And that's probably one of the best books that you're ever going to find, because you're going to learn something about your mind when you read this book.
Okay.
Now, I read a lot of books. I've got probably 1,000 books sitting in my den at home in my library. But the one that I carry it everywhere I go, and I read it all the time, is Think and Grow Rich. I never stop reading it.
Now, where's the value for you to reread that and read it again? I mean, you must know it well enough that...
I think I could probably recite it verbatim. But the secret is, I once read in a book where it said, when you read a good book through the second time, you don't see something in it that you didn't see before. You see something in yourself that wasn't there before. You see, when I read this, I create a greater awareness. Let me just read you one line out of here, 2 lines.
Okay.
Hill said, the missing link in all systems of education known to civilization today may be found in the failure of educational institutions to teach students how to organize and use knowledge after they acquire it. He went on to say that we should understand the real meaning of the word educate. It's not going to a brick and mortar edifice for 25 years. That's gathering information. You'll probably develop your memory, but I would question how well you develop your mind. And I'm not against education, because I encourage my children to go to school, as we know it. Now, he said the word education comes from the word educo. And he says it's derived from the Latin word educo, meaning to induce, to draw out, or to develop from within. An educated person is not necessarily one who has an abundance of general or specialized knowledge. An educated person is one who has so developed the faculties of their mind that they may acquire anything they want or its equivalent without violating the rights of others. An educated person is the one that knows how to go and get what they want out of life without being selfish.
In sense, a researcher, somebody who knows what they're looking for and knows how to go about finding.
Well, I think we should forever be involved in research, because learning is a lifelong process. You never stop learning. Education means to draw out from within. We're drawing on an infinite source. We've got deep reservoirs of talent and ability within us. We can learn to do anything. We have phenomenal powers. If we used our body like we used our mind, we'd probably just move our little finger.
Okay. We don't exercise our mind enough.
No. But we're not taught to. Kids in school should be taught, before the school year ever starts, to sit down. They should be given a blank report card and get them to visualize the marks they want to get and write their own report card. This is before school starts, first week in school. And then the teacher should say, now I want you just to concentrate on how to get that mark, and I don't want you to think of why you can't. And I want you to form the attitude that you're going to get it. Now, some people say that's not being realistic. That's being very realistic. That's following the success principles that go back 6,000 years in recorded history. That's how everything was accomplished.
That's not engaging in fantasy thinking, in wishful thinking, in daydreaming we talk about.
No. Well, that's where all greatness comes from. Greatness comes from fantasy. I would imagine that when Edison first saw the light bulb, he was fantasizing. But he kept fantasizing, and he built it into a theory, and then he built it into an image, and then he built it into a fact. I mean, when I was a kid, it was a fantasy to think of going to the moon. We've been up there with cars, playing golf.
Okay, you mentioned in terms of success principles, attitude, this business of attitude.
Attitude. It takes in the way you think, the way you feel, and the way you act. I'd have a difficult time really explaining attitude right just in a conversation. I use a board in the seminar, and I did an attitude seminar last night. We spent 3 hours dealing with that one subject, so to do it here in 3 minutes, I can't do it. I haven't learned how yet.
Okay.
Let's put it that way.
I recognize it's difficult because we talk...
You have to have a winning attitude, though, Tom.
Okay. In human relations, we talk about the toughest thing with managing people. The toughest thing to deal with is their attitude.
That's right.
That's almost impossible.
And that's the one thing where management falls down.
But we can't change people's attitudes.
Well, nobody can change another person's attitude. The only attitude we can change is our own. But you see, if management have the idea it's their attitude and we can't do anything about it, then they're not going to do anything about it. But if management arrive at the conclusion, yes, it is attitude, and let's teach the people something about attitude. Let's teach them something about themselves. Let's make them realize that they're worth something, that they're valuable, they're the greatest resource we've got. Companies spend about 65% of every dollar that comes in goes back out on employees and wages and benefits, and yet management knows less about employees than anything else. They know more about the gadgets and the widgets than they do about the people.
Okay, so your suggestion is we develop a winning attitude.
Absolutely.
Can you define that for me, first of all? What is a winning attitude?
Well, if we can understand, let me digress for a second. The whole universe operates by laws, and there's a law of opposites. It's called the law of polarity. Everything has its opposite. There's a right and a left side. There's a front and a back, an up and a down, a hot and a cold, positive and negative, yin the yang. You know, well, you can think negative or you can think positive, but you can't think both at the same time. You're only going to think one way at one time. And we have to train our mind to think or look for the positive or the good in things. There's good in everything. There's no such thing as no good.
Car broke down on the way over to the station.
There's something good about it. There's something good about it. Now, you may have to look to find out what it is.
Okay.
Yeah. But there's something good in everything. There has to be a positive and a negative for anything to exist. There's a law of gender that decrees that. Science understands it. It's taught in science.
Okay.
Well, once we understand that there's this law of opposites, there's negative thoughts or positive thoughts. As the thought energy flows into our mind, we decide what we're going to think. Person's out of work. They can decide to think, I can't find a job, but they can decide to think, I can. If they're thinking, I'm going to find one, then they'll start attracting a train of thought to them, figuring out how to find it. You really have to understand how your conscious and your subconscious mind works in relation to your body or your physical world to understand attitude. Attitude should be taught as a subject in school ahead of reading, writing, arithmetic, or anything else. Because it's a person's attitude that's going to determine the marks they get.
Okay, and maybe part of attitude or related to attitude is this business of self-image, which you talked about.
Yeah. Well, that would, like we were talking about success principles, and I was saying you got to get the winning attitude, you've got to set a goal. Then you have to work on self-image. Now, when we think, we build images in our mind. Dr. Maxwell Maltz discovered the self-image concept as we know it today. In 1960, he was a plastic surgeon. And he realized he was operating on people. He may remove a nasty scar from their face. And he noticed sometimes when he removed the scar or maybe did a nose job on them or something, there was a great psychological change took place in the person. Where they may have been introverted, they started to become very gregarious and outgoing. And he postulated that there must be two images that we have, an exterior image, and we also have an inner self-image. And he started to study this, and he wrote a magnificent book on it called Psycho-Cybernetics. And psycho-cybernetics, psycho being the mind, cybernetics being the science of control and communication. And he goes into this, and he explains how every one of us has an image in our mind of ourself. And it's called a self-image. Too many people don't know much about themselves, and so they don't have a very good image of themselves. And you'll often notice that people will shy away from you. They won't look you in the eye. They'll look down or look up. They'll never try to do anything of any great consequence because they don't think they can. They have a poor self-image.
Okay. Part of that is because through school we're told about what we don't do well. We failed here, we had low grades, or
that
we
could be
only
part
got
of it.
60%
Yeah.
or whatever. Okay.
Yeah. I think there's been a great disservice done with the IQ test in that respect when you're bringing out school. Binet, the Frenchman, back around the turn of the century, invented the IQ test, and then we brought it over from Stanford over here, and we'll test a person's intellect, and then we'll brand them good, bad, smart, not, and that's not true. We can change IQs by changing self-images. But yes, if we're told we're not very good, you're just like your dad, you're a bum, you're never going to do well, you didn't go to school, you can't win.
Okay.
Well, that's all that's all false. We can do anything. And we should be encouraging a child. Give them a pat in the back rather than a kick.
Okay, what can we do? Members of our viewing audience right now, most of us walk around with some degree of a self-image. Is that fair to say?
We all have a self-image.
Okay, would you say most of us have a negative self-image to some degree?
Well, let's say we can all improve our self-image.
Okay.
I don't care how good your image is, you can improve it.
Okay, how can we improve it? Something specific. How can we go about making our self-image more positive?
Well, Again, you know, you're getting into a whole day seminar. If I could give you just a simple tip on it, if a person would sit down and let their body relax, totally relax,
Okay.
and then start to visualize in their mind, see themselves the way they want to see themselves.
Which may take a good deal of thought, since we're not
Well, you
sure
relax, yeah.
I mean, in terms of how we want to see ourselves. Maybe we don't know how we want to
relate it to something specific.
Somebody we admire, maybe? Or
Possibly.
Somewhere we'd like to see yourself down the road? Okay.
Yeah, see how you'd like to live your life. See yourself living it that way.
Okay.
Now, understand that that's a picture in your mind. When you pick up a book, the book is nothing but a picture that an author has painted in words. Van Gogh, the great artist, was asked one time how he did such beautiful work. He said, I dream my painting, and then I paint my dream. They get the picture in the mind, and then paint it on the wall, or on the canvas. Well, if we would relax and build the image in our mind of how we'd like to see ourselves, how we'd like to see ourselves acting in life, relating to other people, our social life, see ourselves in the position we hold, or how we make our sales presentations if we happen to be in selling or something, and then take that picture and describe it, write it out in the present tense. I am so happy now that I see myself, and write it out. Now, a lot of people will laugh at this and say, that doesn't make any sense. It makes a lot of sense. They can't tell you why it doesn't. I could spend hours telling you why it does, and I could explain it in such detail that everyone would understand it. But write out a description of how you'd like to see yourself. Start to read it, and read it, and read it, and read it every day. Carry it around and keep reading it. The one point that all the great teachers, all down through history, have all agreed on, they've been in complete unanimous agreement on it, we become what we think about. Now, it may be fantasy at first, it might even appear to us as being a lie. But if you read it often enough, you'll start to believe it. And when William James said, believe and your belief will create the fact, you will see the person's personality change. I watch people in the seminars, personality change right in front of my eyes. And all they're doing is starting to see themselves different. They're starting to think different thoughts.
So our thoughts control our actions?
Oh, there's no question about it. No, our thoughts control our feelings.
Okay.
Our feelings control our actions.
All right. And we control our thoughts?
Absolutely.
Or we can control our thoughts?
Control our thoughts, yes.
Generally, though, one of our difficulties, one of our problems maybe, is that we tend to react to what other people will tell us, and we consequently get the negative thoughts, and then that affects our feelings, and then that affects our behavior.
That's right. That's exactly the way it is. We read the newspaper. Doom and gloom's coming. We just accept it. Doom and gloom doesn't have to be coming. Do you know there's always been a depression for some people? I grew up with the idea that everybody went broke in the 30s. They didn't. Some made millions. I thought everybody went out of business. They didn't. Some people went into business. There's always a depression for some people, and there's always good times for others. Let's ask ourselves when we read something in the paper, do I want to get emotionally involved in that idea? If it's a negative idea, I don't want to get emotionally involved with it. I don't read the paper that often. I do, but I don't dwell on it.
You don't get emotionally involved in it when you see other.
When an idea comes into your mind, whether somebody else tells you or whether you read it in the paper, we should reason with it. Ask ourselves, will that idea help me get to where I want to go? If it won't, reject the idea.
Okay. All right. Bob, I appreciate it. Our half hour's gone by already.
Went fast.
Very quickly. Those that are interested in learning more about your philosophy of success, and I know you do give very specific tips on what they can do to become more successful, are welcome to attend your seminars.
Absolutely. Tell them to phone the office. We run seminars all the time.
Terrific. Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Yeah. How was the video? Could you hear clearly? His accent was okay?
Yes.
Okay. So, any comments, thoughts, reactions, feelings?
So is this the only way to change the paradigm? So, like how he explained that one single method, one single tip that he shared.
No,
Where
there are multitude of methods. But what I am doing is that slowly I am bringing new people into your awareness. Okay. And there are many people like that and many ways of thinking, right? So what I have personally experienced through my life journey is that there are many dots to connect. many dots to connect. And as we keep connecting more and more dots, our awareness keeps expanding and expanding and expanding and deepening and deepening and deepening. So more dots you're able to connect using your conscious mind, more light increases inside the unconscious mind. So it is not possible for you to gain a terrific insight and for light to not increase in the unconscious mind. It's impossible. That's my personal experience. So especially if you're reading a powerful book or watching a powerful video or watching a powerful movie, when I say powerful, I don't mean in terms of fantastic pictures or fantastic storyline. I mean powerful in terms of awakening your awareness. In that sense, I'm saying. So I have one strong worry with unrealistic movies that are too fictitious. See, our mind already is very expert in creating fiction. And most of us live in a false, picture or movie that our mind has created. Right? And when we, in search of entertainment, go very far away from truth, which has no connection to human life as it is, then we become engrossed in a absolutely irrelevant world of imagination. We start thinking about characters and stories, lines and plots which have no bearing upon real life. I mean, I don't know whether you follow me or not. I mean, and then such pictures, if I make in 3D and 4D and 5D and 6D and 7D and nth D, we have lost touch with ourselves completely. As it is believed soul is trapped in Maya. Okay, as it is very tough. I mean, if we were, let's say, 2000 years ago, born 2000 years ago, where technology is not there much, even then it's difficult enough to wake up. Okay, because odds are so much piled on against us. Because the 5 sense organs have limited perspective and brain has limited knowledge. And why it is so? Because you know very much bacteria causes disease, but can the eyes see? Can't see, no? The real cause is, can the eyes see? Eyes can't see. Or you put a scale in the water, the scale seems bent. Now, can the brain understand? Just like that, by seeing the picture? No, it can't. It gets deceived very easily. You see water in the distance in the desert and you feel it is water. Your brain gets deceived very easily. So it's very easy to see that the brain and the sense organs are not very powerful tools. So as it is, the world is so difficult, and deliberately designed like that by God. It is called Leela. In Indian thought system, it's called Leela. Deliberately, God has made the universe like that, where He hides inside us and traps us in a world which seems very lucrative and very attractive, and we are motivated to go and look for happiness outside. God is playing with Himself, because in everyone, He Himself is living as an entity, as Sneha, as Saju, as Hemant, and as Rajiv. Okay. And He loves playing this game. He loves playing this game. In this game, he suffers as a beggar, as a leper, as a cancer patient, and whatnot. As a victim of plague, as a victim of war, genocide, whatnot. For some reason, he loves playing this game. But he loves also those souls who are strong enough to break his Maya. Because at least some souls should be strong enough to break his Maya, otherwise he himself will be trapped. If some of us will not wake up, God is trapped for eternal time. Do you follow what I'm saying? I'm going very abstract.
Yes, sir.
So we, the people who are waking up, are going to save God from this, this stupidity. Okay. So, anyways, I mean, I will now become more practical. I made a very philosophical statement. I don't know whether it went above your head or not, but so as it is quite difficult. But with modern technology and modern, manipulative mafias who want you to be trapped in Maya forever and buy more and more of redundant things for their profit, they are not very, much wishing well for you. They don't want you to ever be happy or be wise. So they make such programs, such movies, such whatever, that you become more and more distracted. Now we have these shorts, no, right now, YouTube shorts, TikTok, it came, and then now we have shorts. Now, with the videos becoming shorter and shorter and shorter, what is happening? The attention span is becoming smaller and smaller and smaller. Now, it is basically lack of awareness of the human system of thinking and learning. How humans learn. People have not paid close attention. I will teach you right now. Each one of you has a faculty called attention. Is it not? Do you agree with me? You have attention.
Yes, sir.
You can shift your attention from one thing to another thing. Am I right?
Yes.
You cannot pay attention to more than one thing at a time. Am I right or wrong?
Right.
Saju, would you agree with me?
Totally, sir.
It is not humanly possible for anyone, even the most brilliant person on earth, to pay attention to two things at the same time. In the same nanosecond, the brain can focus only upon one thing.
Yes.
Okay, that is how the brain and the eyes are structured, or the ears are structured. So you connect with outside reality through any sense organ, any of the five. I don't care which one you are using, eyes, ear, or nose, or touch, or whatever. But to connect with outside reality through any sense organ, you can pay attention to only one object at a time. It's not possible to think two thoughts at the same time. It is not possible to pay attention to two things at the same time. Okay. You can do multitasking, but that doesn't mean that you will do multiple tasks in the same nanosecond. That is not possible. That is not possible. In a given unit of time, you can do multiple tasks if you're very efficient and very intelligent. But that is not what I'm saying. I'm saying in the given moment, you can pay attention to only one thing at a time. So outside data can flow into your brain only using the faculty of attention. So attention is like a bridge. Attention is like a bridge. It connects me to the outside reality, one thing at a time. Then on that bridge, the data travels to my brain. Walking on that bridge of attention, the data travels to my brain. Then when a lot of data comes to my brain recognizes the patterns in this data, matches it to earlier files in the memory. Or if it is something new, learn something new about this new data. That is how we accumulate information, or what we call knowledge or experience. So attention leads to retention. Attention leads to cognition, cognition leads to retention. That's the whole flow chart. So this is how we learn. Right. Now, when you have a shortening of the attention span systematically over time, what happens is that along with that, a quality called impatience develops in you. Impatience. Patience is a very important quality of human beings. And when patience is taken away by hooking you to shorter and shorter things, what happens is that you will never acquire depth. You will acquire a lot of entertainment. You will acquire a lot of disassembled, disjointed facts. They will sit in the memory, cluttering the brain, but there will be no coherent pattern which will give you wisdom. You may listen to 1,000 random jokes, you may watch 1,000 random things, and all this randomness will accumulate in the brain, because there is no way that you expose your brain to outside data and that data not sitting in the brain. It is not impossible. It is not possible. If you expose your brain to different kinds of things, they all sit in the brain, but they are only increasing the furniture in the room. Brain is like a room. In that room, only that much furniture can be kept. So if you bring a lot of random furniture, thoughts, impressions, your brain becomes more and more cluttered. So if you start developing, boredom, frustration, anxiety, psychosomatic illnesses, etc., it's not very abnormal. It's very normal. It's very natural, the way we are living our life. So, one important quality that human beings need to develop, all human beings need to develop, is wisdom. The conscious mind is meant to give us the faculty called wisdom. Adulthood is meant to help us develop wisdom. Childhood is meant to develop the brain. Human brain, human head keeps growing till age 6. Why the child has to be brought out at the end of 9 months in natural delivery, natural delivery process earlier times. At the end of 9 months, the baby has to come out, the fetus has to come out of the mother's womb, because if the baby doesn't come out after 9 months, the head will become so big that the pelvic passage through which the baby comes out will not be able to allow the baby to come out alive. So that is why the human being is like that. The baby comes out of the mother's womb after 9 months, then the head keeps growing for 6 months, 6 years. Physically, the head grows very fast for 6 years. And the brain development is continued for 6 years. I don't know whether you know about it or not. It is scientific fact. Science knows about it. Our brain development gets completed at the end of 6 years after the baby is born. That is why those people who know this thing, and the baby is meant to remain in theta state. No, I already told. If the baby is not able to remain in theta state for 6 years, if he is not allowed to dream sufficiently for 6 years, imagine sufficiently for 6 years, play for 6 years, just chill for 6 years, then that baby is not going to develop into a normal human being. That baby will develop some psychological illnesses. It is natural. We should not put pressure upon the baby till age 6. Basic parenting tip: never give challenging assignments to a baby below 6. Okay, the first 6 years of life is meant to teach the baby that you are worthy, you are lovable, you are beautiful, you are wonderful, you make my life complete. Without you, I am incomplete as a mom or as a dad. That is, cherish and love and pour blessings upon the baby for the first 6 years. Don't worry about alphabet, don't worry about the table and algebra. First 6 years of life. Give them lot of love and lot of good sanskaras, character building sanskaras. Why we should not steal, why we should not hurt, why we should not, pretend, why we should not be artificial, why money is not the most important thing in life. Friendship is, love is, compassion is. So these things are the first 6 years of life we need to teach. So anyways, to come back to your question, there are many ways of working upon our subconscious mind. One way which he teaches here, which I like a lot, is the power of a good book. Now, he is a very well-read man, obviously one of the leading experts in the world in his time. So he told, in my personal library, there are 1,000 books which he has. Out of the 1,000 books, he reads some books more often than not. But one particular book which is Bible to him is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And he, in this interview, told that for last 23 years he has been reading this book. And later, 23, 25 years later, also he shares that he still is reading that book. So for 50 years or more than 50 years, one man, a great man like him, kept reading that one book. Whole life he read. Why? Is he a fool? No, I'll tell you why. Because he understands the nature of a subconscious mind. He wants the wisdom contained in that book, which is a very complete book. And I'll tell you why it's a complete book in a short while. That book has taught how to use the brain to become rich and successful. If you read Think and Grow Rich and understand its methodology, there is no way for you to fail in life. It's impossible. Okay, he has taught that very carefully, and that is why this book is a bestseller for more than 80 years now. Think and Grow Rich you will see everywhere, on the airport, in the railway station, in the bus stand. Am I right or not? In all the countries. You will find it in China, you will find it in Japan, you will find it in Brazil. It has been translated into virtually every language of the world. Okay, so like that, some books are classics. So that book is a classic. And this man has read that book because that book teaches how to become successful. He wanted to become successful. So he read it and read it and read it, so that he became very successful and became a teacher of how to gain success. So he wanted his subconscious mind to become completely reprogrammed by the principles contained in that book. That is why he read that book so many times and for so long. And at that age itself, he says, I remember the book line by line. But even then, he keeps reading because he says, every time I read the book, I see a different self reading that book, which means my self has become transformed with every reading. And now that has been my experience. Hemant, I'll come to you. That has been my experience with my personal Bible, that is Bhagavad Gita. I have been reading Bhagavad Gita for God knows how many years, and I still keep contemplating about Bhagavad Gita. I don't read much now, but whatever I teach basically comes from Bhagavad Gita. Because any book that I read or any book that I come across, everything is covered in Bhagavad Gita. There is nothing in this planet which is not covered in Bhagavad Gita. It's such a complete book. Okay, it's just that how many layers of Bhagavad Gita you can open for yourself. These are very deep books, right? Yeah, Hemant, please go ahead.
Actually, in a one video I was listening that one great neurosurgeon, he was reading the same book, can say college, in his I think MS or MD book for so many years. He said whenever I have any problem, I go back to that book and read, and each and every time he gets new insight about how to solve the problem. So I believe if you read same great book for longer period of time, you will get many insights hidden in that particular book, sir.
Okay, so I will share my personal experience. So you may also experience the same thing as you go deeper into life. If I'm reading a great book, I'm not talking Bhagavad Gita, any great book, because I read very deeply and very carefully, very slowly. So what used to happen to me is that whenever something I read is very influential for me, it moves me very profoundly, I experience tingling in different parts of my body. In different parts of my body, some tingling sensation, some nerves become activated, and then I close my eyes, and then 10-15 minutes I'll be simply closing my eyes and experiencing the sensation. And that what I have read starts to go deeper and deeper and deeper. And then tremendous amounts of insights start to flood my consciousness. Because I have read a lot and I have developed my mind a lot, that is why I'm able to experience that. So that one statement that I may read may connect with 1,000 other things that I already have in my mind. And whenever it is about to happen, I get a tingling sensation. So I take a pause because I know some new knowledge is going to break through into my consciousness. So I become very silent still and go in a meditative mode. And then lot of new data, new knowledge starts to flood my consciousness, which is not related directly to that what it is written, but it triggers many other thoughts. So my existing knowledge base connecting to that information produces new knowledge. It's like exponential curve. So more you go deep in life, more rapid the rate at which you can learn. More you learn, more faster you're able to learn. It's a virtuous cycle like that. And on the other hand, if you don't learn, then the inertia becomes very deeply entrenched, and then becomes difficult to break free from that rut of habitual thinking, habitual living. That is why it's a very good idea to keep in touch. So another statement he made, which I like, is he told that, no, you are saying that, Bob, that people should go out and do research. He says, no, we all should be doing research all our life. Human life is meant to learn continuously throughout life. We should never stagnate, because that is what we are meant to learn. Meant to do. I mean, as a humans, we are meant to learn more and more, more and more throughout our life. We should never stagnate. So I like that. Also, third thing I like is he says, first you visualize what you want to become. See yourself as that person that you wish to become. Successful or whatever, powerful or charismatic or knowledgeable, whatever it is, healthy, energetic, and then go about creating that person within. So you visualize yourself as that person that you want to become, and you create yourself using your thoughts, feelings, and actions. So I like that idea also. So it's like, recreating ourself. So self-image, another thing he talked about, Maxwell Maltz, he was referring to. He wrote a lot about self-image. So self-image is very important because in the paradigm that we have, that P, Self-image is the very core part of that. Who we are, what we think about ourselves, our capacities, our sense of worth, self-esteem. Everything is there inside that self-image. So whenever we have a very solid self-image, we all have, generally we tend to think and feel and act in a manner which supports the self-image. A beggar, it has been researched that, beggars or very poor people, when they win lottery tickets, on an average, within a year to 18 months, all of them become poor again. Beggars are not able to become rich by winning a lottery ticket. Do you know about this research? Almost all beggars and all poor people, despite winning a multi-million-dollar lottery, they become poor again within less than 2 years. All of them. And in fact, many of them die actually very quickly after winning a lottery ticket. Because the shock is too much. Because becoming rich, ecstasy, and then becoming poor, so much shock, they die. Many commit suicide also. So it is not possible to become rich without becoming rich inside. That's what I'm trying to say.
They image themselves as
the self-image has to be of a rich person, which is not that easy to build. Unless you have rich thoughts and rich feelings and rich sensations in the body, you cannot believe that you are rich. Some great actors like Amitabh Bachchan is a character, right? A great actor, Bollywood actor. Now you can see in his personality that he was already a superstar before he became a superstar. Because persona is so rich that there is no way for this powerful person not to become a superstar. Because the confidence that he portrays in his personality, that is the real wealth. How he became like that. So the credit goes to his father, Harivansh Rai Bachchan, who was a great poet and a scholar, right? The way he brought up his son. So he always keeps talking about his father and keeps reciting his poetry all the time. You may have known about it, right? His favorite pastime is reading his father's poems and reciting them. Okay, so it can be very evident that his father has shaped the child's mind. In that theta phase, that first 6 years of life, he has gained something so beautiful from his parents that made him the superstar that he is. So you first become successful inside your inner being, and then that is replicated. Okay, so he's a great teacher. You can read more about him, and he has a lot of videos on YouTube. Okay, so I introduced you to him, and I will introduce to more people also. But one important technique to reprogram the subconscious mind is to get in touch with a very powerful book that you particularly like. It may be a recommendation from a good teacher, like I told Bhagavad Gita, for example. So you can start reading Bhagavad Gita commentaries, or he told Think and Grow Rich. You can read that. There are many books, 7 habits I gave in my courses of highly effective people, or Atomic Habits these days, very, very famous book. Any Power of Subconscious Mind. There are many books, or The Biology of Belief, Bruce Lipton I introduced you to. So pick any great book, read it thoroughly, maybe 10 times, 15 times, 20 times. Take 2, 3, 4 years to absorb that. That is one powerful way to change the subconscious mind. In my wife's example, I can share my wife's example. One book which made a deep impression upon her and has helped her to transform personality a lot is 4 Agreements. A book called 4 Agreements. So I gave her many books, but one of these books was 4 Agreements. For some reason, she connected to that book a lot and kept reading it for many years, and still she likes to read that book again and again. So whenever she is in doubt or confusion, she often thinks using those lessons in that book and helps her to solve problems, personal problems.
I have read that book. It's based on Mexican philosophy. Right? So,
you have read that book?
Yes, sir. 4 Agreements.
So especially that book has one idea about bubbles. That we are one bubble, others are another bubble. So don't make assumptions about what is going on in that bubble. You can only know your bubble. You can only take care of your bubble and don't worry about their bubble. Now that is one lesson which is a life-changing lesson for her. And it is a very powerful lesson if you understand what that means. That means that you take interest in your life and develop yourself, and that way you can contribute more to your husband or wife or to mother-in-law, father-in-law than to worry about them. Because we are a interacting being with other people. If we take care of our responses, that helps everyone.
Yes. Sometimes a slight change in perspective solves problems around.
Yes.
Especially immediately after reading a good book, the entire vibe would be different. The way we respond to all the external stimuli would be different. And as the days go, slowly we would just forget all those stuff and then get back to our
Yeah, I
patterns
remember. I
because of
remember you during happiness course, no?
yes, sir.
So you produce such beautiful learning diaries. I don't know how much you remember still. You
I
you you keep your learning diary with you, or you lost it?
yes, I do have it.
You do have it. Okay. Did you ever read that again?
Yes, sir. Especially when I was in Morocco, I used to read it every now and then because that was like a completely new phase of life for me, very tough to handle. So at that time, I used to go through it regularly, but not now. So
Yeah. So little bit may have registered because you read it in the adult age, no, when you were an adult. So that is why you have to keep reading and thinking more and more so that it goes into the subconscious mind. Once it goes into the subconscious mind, it becomes a second nature.
yes,
So that is when the repetition of a great idea again and again pushes it deeper and deeper into the subconscious mind. And it is at that level when it is becoming our personal wisdom. We start to behave automatically out of that wisdom. So that is one technique he shared in this video, that we should read a great book again and again till it becomes a part of our inner nature. So there are many techniques. So today I shared this one technique and this one video, and we'll see other techniques also in subsequent videos. I think we can stop here unless you want to ask something or discuss something for today. Saju, you want to say something or?
Sir, I have some connectivity issues today. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I'm able to hear you.
Okay. Sir, I was thinking about that self-image concept, sir, which that person was discussing.
Can you come again?
Sir, self-image concept, sir.
Self-image, huh?
So, was saying in some people, self-image is very clear, and people clarity is low. So, and this is not the stages. So, how can we say that, sir, this is self-image development is psychodynamic process, or is it some situational in outside?
See, self-image generally develops based upon life experiences, and self-image generally develops upon based upon what other people think about us.
Okay.
Generally, we are social creatures, and what opinions other people hold about us, they are accepted by us as valid. It's an
Okay.
unconscious process, and it happens for most people in the early part of life itself.
Okay.
So that is why the first 6 to 8 years of life is very important for development of a positive and healthy self-image. That is where parenting has a great role to play. Okay. So one role of parenting is to instill a good self-image in the child. That is why I told you, loving and blessing and cherishing the child and telling that you are intrinsically wonderful and beautiful is a very important role of parents. Okay.
so sometimes their upbringing during the childhood would be good. They would feel good about themselves during that 1 to maybe 13, 14. During that adolescence, especially if they move out of their homes or and move to colleges, hostels. Many students we see that they used to be very confident during their childhood. Immediately when they move to some other place, some other environment, they'll completely lose their self-confidence. Even they'll be just moved to the like point of suicide. So why does that happen, sir? If they have a very strong upbringing and a very good self-image during the childhood, even then, is there any possibility to face this kind of condition?
Yeah, so why it happens to children from good families is because of one mistake that parents make. And that mistake is of not training the child to bear good pain. During parenting, if we try to protect the child too much so that pain never reaches the child, then those children lack in something called strength, ego strength, what we also call resilience. So when that ego strength or resilience to deal with adversity does not develop in the child, then such children, when they go out of their home atmosphere and face adverse circumstances, they may struggle very badly. So because in parenting, when we are giving a very loving kind of parenting style to our children, we may give too much love and too little pain. So love has to be balanced with sufficient amount of discipline. Discipline is painful. Discipline is painful. So we have to inculcate the habit of self-discipline in the child. The habit of disciplining themselves for the sake of a worthy cause, a worthy goal. That is very important. So in the process of disciplining, scolding is also very important for the right thing, for the right reason. But telling the child why we are scolding or punishing, moderate amount of punishment, moderate amount of scolding is very necessary part of child's development. Because that way children learn what is good and what is not good morally. Okay. And when you know what is good and what is not good, you are able to become a better judge of human character. But when you are not taught what is good, what is not good, then you remain a poor judge of human character and you don't develop resilience. So when you go out of your home front to a hostel or somewhere, you may form friendships with wrong type of people, opportunistic people, who may give you wounding. And it may be the first time in life that you have been wounded from someone to whom you become emotionally attached. So that happens because you're not able to judge the character. Because you are used to being with good people at home, you assume everyone is similar. Anyone who smiles and is friendly towards you, you tend to trust them. Right? And you're not able to see that negative aspect of personality so easily because of you being very naive. So in parenting, we may make this mistake of overindulging the child with love and affection and not giving them exposure to the real life. That is why sending the child to purchase things for the house or do household chores, going out in the market to do bargaining. They should know the real market. People bargain, people want to make profit, people want to cut corners, harshness in the world around. So we have to ourselves expose the child to such negative aspects of life. Everything is not hunky-dory. We should never paint a picture to the child that the world is heaven and because our home is heaven. Home may be heaven, but the world is not heaven. It needs to be told to the child. Not only told, through exposure the child should learn. Through exposure the child should learn that there are bullies, that there are aggressive people, that there are short-tempered people. Let them get exposed to real life. But at the same time, you be there as their protector and their guide and their teacher. So that is a very subtle role. So we should inculcate the habit of bearing good pain, like exercising, building a good physique, building strength, or insisting that you have to finish this maths book. I will not let you study standard 8th maths book till you finish standard 7th maths book. I don't care if you get less marks in standard 8th. Finish standard 7th book. So the child becomes desperate to finish standard 7th. And he learns that I cannot jump the class just because school passed me. Father also has to pass you. You see what I'm saying? So this is good pain. This is good pain. Did I answer your question? So this is what I think.
Yes, sir. Yes. And one more, this is like one part. The other one is sometimes is there any reversal, like the person used to be a very good person, but during that adolescence, because I have seen people who used to be like, highly religious during the early childhood, but after 15, I don't know, maybe as you said, because of poor emotional intelligence, or maybe because of fear pressure, they just move completely away from the spiritual practices, and they just turn completely against these.
Yeah. So here what happens is no that I taught you during your time, no MBB or somewhere, that freedom, love, discipline, and wisdom, four components of parenting. Every child wants to be completely free, but we can't leave the child free, right? Because freedom is dangerous for a immature person. The child may kill itself, harm itself. So
Yeah.
we need to impose discipline, boundaries, that you can't cross this boundary. But then when we are laying down the boundary, we have to tell the reasons. Why you can't do this, why you can't do that. The reason is important. If the child knows why mother is telling don't do this, then the child can accept that boundary. Because it makes sense to him or her. But if you don't tell why you are telling not to do this and not to do that, that will breed fear of the unknown. They will feel anxious or nervous, and they will not know the reason why they are feeling like that. It's very important when you say don't do that or don't do that or this, tell them reason why you are telling that, how it is a rational thing. So rules are important, but the rationale behind the rules are more important. If you don't give the rationale behind the rules, the child becomes superstitious and anxious and frightened. Okay, then they may become afraid of darkness and ghosts and whatnot. That is the reason why these fears come. So it's, see, the human nature is to say yes to everything, to enjoy everything. And the moment you say no, that puts a darkness inside me, fear inside me. That is why when I say no, I should tell why I am saying no. So freedom is child's basic nature. Disciplining we have to do, but when disciplining, we have to tell why we are saying this rule or that rule. Okay. Third is too much of discipline. Especially the danger is when, if you want to be a good child, you have to be a disciplined child. That condition is dangerous. So most parents in India, because of our culture, which is very God oriented and very religious oriented, we equate good behavior with punya or merit, spiritual merit, and bad behavior with sins. So if you do bad things, you are a sinful child. If you do good things, you are a good child. Right? Now this is very dangerous. We should teach children to do good things not because they become a good child, but they should do good things because that is the rational thing to do. Good bad is dangerous, because if I am not able to do good things which my mom is telling me, then I'm a bad child. Unconsciously. Not consciously, unconsciously.
Yes, sir.
Because I identify so much with my mother that if my mother doesn't approve of some behavior of mine, it is as good as me myself not approving of myself. So that becomes a part of my poor self-image. That is why it's very important for a mother especially to do to give unconditional love to the child. Child may do what you think bad things, but you replace the bad thing in your mind with irrational thing. Don't say child is doing bad things. Say child is doing irrational thing. To whom? To yourself. To yourself. So always very important to explain to the child why you say this is a bad thing. Why you say it's a irrational thing. So when you explain the rationale of a behavior that you are demanding, then the child develops the real compassion. Real compassion. We explain to the child. My son, younger son, used to kill ants. I've explained in the class also sometime in some batch. He used to kill ants till age, 1.5 almost. So I could not do anything about it because very small. But when he became 1.5 years old, he was able to walk a little bit. One day, and he used to lie down on his stomach and kill the ants like that. As he was doing that, one day I hit him very powerfully on his hip, on his buttocks, very hard. It would have hurt him, and he started crying. And he ran to his mother. Papa, hit me, and he was very beautiful child, crying with heavy tears. And I felt very bad also. But then I took him in my lap and consoled him, and then taught him. When I hit you very hard, did it hurt you? He said yes. I said same thing is happening to that poor ant. And see, you are alive, but it is dead. He didn't know what death is. Okay. So after some time, I understood, because he asked me what is death. So later, I was very puzzled. I did not know how to handle that. Then I told him, see, the ant can't move now. That is death. Right. Then he saw a dead crow some 15, 20 days later. He said, that is the dead crow. Like that. That idea came to his head. So then slowly, from that day he stopped doing that. So I gave him a good pain, but also explained to him. You see what I'm saying? So this is a very important part of parenting. You have to set the boundary, but also tell why. Tell the rationale. Don't tell what you're doing is bad. Tell what you are doing is irrational. I'm giving from my example, this. So this is a very important thing. So when you don't portray things as bad or good, but as rational, irrational, then the self-image does not take a hit. Because when I do something irrational, I can gain reason, gain wisdom, gain understanding, and become rational. So when you interpret things as rational, irrational, you're not judging the person. You're judging the rationality of the behavior. But when you say that by doing something bad, you are becoming bad and God will not love you and I will not be able to love you, then that sits in the self-image. And then that produces two emotions, guilt and shame. Guilt and shame are not natural to human beings. No other creature experiences guilt or shame. There are two reasons for shame. One is this, which I explained. Other is our insistence upon people wearing clothes. Because wearing clothes as a compulsion, it's a necessity because of climate, basically, most places. But as it has become a part of our second nature, the body image of most people is not a positive one. And especially, because of the taboo that is on sex in most religions, people feel very uncomfortable about the genital part. Genitals, they become very uncomfortable about that. And that is a major reason for development of shame and major reason for developing guilt when sexual thoughts arise in the teenage years. These are very complex ideas I'm teaching. So in Indian parenting style, these things are generally treated as taboo topics. And that, creates a huge blind spot in the personality. So people become uncomfortable with respect to those aspects of life in their self-image. So many fears come from there, irrational fears come from there because they think that God doesn't approve of these behaviors, of these thoughts, of these impulses. But these are biological impulses. At a certain age, when a person of opposite sex is in front of you and you feel attracted, certain thoughts will come naturally. So we have to explain to our children that is natural. It's not bad. It is natural. Then how you use that energy, that is what is the sign of maturity or intelligence or wisdom. So, human beings, their biological impulses we can't control. That is part of natural programming. Then as parents, how we help the child to cope with those energies in a healthy manner through guidance, through support, is a very important part of parenting. And these days it has become very important because with technology making to children available such gadgets as cell phones and laptops and internet and all that, and you never know what your child is getting exposed to prematurely. It becomes very important for parents to become even more transparent with children and teach them about things which earlier we did not spend too much time upon. How to use technology in a constructive manner. Teaching them at a very early age about dopamine in the brain. You know how dopamine addiction is a major menace these days. Whenever you have pleasurable experiences, dopamine gets released in the brain. Dopamine is the pleasure hormone. Why the whole world is hooked to the cell phone these days? Dopamine. The moment you have a cell phone and start entertaining yourself, dopamine starts to get released in the brain. So we become addicted. But the pity is the addiction is to a hormone or a drug which is released in the blood by the brain. So we have to teach the children these things. We have to show them the rat experiment where the rats stopped eating food. What the scientists did know, for pressing a lever, they were earlier giving some food. So rats will press the lever to get food. Later what they did was, they stopped giving food, but for pressing that same lever, they started to give a shot in the brain, some electric shot in the brain to some equipment, which will stimulate the center where the dopamine is released. So for every time they press the lever, they will give electric shock here, pleasant shock, which will stimulate the brain to release dopamine. So after a while, these rats became conditioned to press the lever because they want their dopamine shot. And these are addicted rats now. For these addicted rats now, when real food is given to them, when they are hungry, they have not eaten for 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, they will not get attracted to eat food. They will keep pressing the lever to get the dopamine shot. They will not stop doing it to get the food into their system. And many rats died or reached near death. Some rats, they let them die to see how much power is there in the addictive behavior. Literally, rats died. And others were about to die. Then the scientist made an intervention, removed that, and started to feed the rats so that they can live. Now, this is a very powerful experiment. All children should be shown that. So now you can understand why the children don't want to sleep at 3 o'clock in the night. The brain is giving tremendous signals to sleep. Another hormone called melanin, which induces sleep, is being released by the pineal gland in heavy quantities. But the child is not willing to let go of the cell phone. Why? Two hormones fighting. Dopamine wants to keep the brain awake because it is enjoying. The brain is enjoying. So in a way, it's a split brain. The natural harmony of the brain is producing melanin to sleep, induce sleep. But the addicted part of the brain wants to play. So these things are science now. We as parents should know this, and children should be taught this as quickly as possible so that they can understand before it is too late. I have taught my children these things. Okay, so they are very aware children compared to generally other people's children. Most of them, my children are very aware because they know these things. So I don't feel afraid of they using these gadgets because they understand how to use them for constructive purposes. So knowledge is very powerful. We have to use knowledge in a very constructive manner when it comes to parenting. So to answer your question, so we have to give children a lot of unconditional love, but discipline also, and the reasons for setting rules and punishing them when they cross boundaries, but explaining why we punished. And punishment has to be commensurate with the crime committed, which is moderate punishment. And even when punishing, we tell that we are punishing them for the behavior. We are not rejecting the person. The person is intrinsically lovable. That's very important. Okay. So forgiving the person is very important. The moment they mend their ways. So this way you develop a child which is filled with self-love, so good self-image, filled with a healthy boundary, So disciplined, wise child knows the rules and why they are there. So they can become self-regulated. And at that stage, when they become very mature and very wise, we can let them free. And then when they go out, they are like, very aware, very alert. So they will form friendships with good people. They are a good judge of character. See, if you tell the child that what you did is bad and the reason for that, the child will be blind, no? Why I am saying he will become a poor judge of character? Because he doesn't know in himself what is bad. So he can't recognize that in other people also. Are you getting me?
Yes.
We are black and white and shades of grey, which is reality. So let us not pretend that I am white and your dad is white and you also have to become white. And if you don't become white, you are a bad boy or a bad girl. That is the Indian mistake. So the child rebels. When he becomes teenage, the tremendous desire to do a lot of black things. What mother used to call black. I want to do that black thing because mother never allowed me. So the moment mom is not there, dad is not there, I will do a lot of black things. I will go and drink alcohol and I will smoke cigarettes, I will smoke ganja and whatnot and spoil my life. That is why. So that is why it's a very important art of parenting that when exam is over, let the child loose for 2 days. Don't disturb. Let him play video game for 10 hours. It's okay. Let him go and watch movie. Let him just sleep for as much as he likes. Let him get up at 11 o'clock one day. But tell him that it is only for 1 day or 2 days like it. In that space. So it is very important to let the child be bad for something. So that urge is released, like pressure cooker, no? Pressure cooker, let the steam go out, so that he is calm and comfortable. That is the art of parenting. That is how I understand parenting. Okay? Then children will not go back. They will be able to retain their sanity. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Definitely, this is an art, sir.
It's an art, yeah. Based upon deep understanding. So that is why, don't be too much, judgmental about white, black. That is a basic mistake most parents do.
Replacing this good, bad behaviors as well as characters with rational and irrational. This is actually my an eye-opening.
That is the thing. That is the thing. And this with people also. Not only children, with people also. So when we consciously think like that, we stop judging people as bad. We understand who is more mature, who is less mature. That is a different thing.
Yes.
So we think in terms of maturity, not good, bad. Okay. And that's a very important distinction, because when you think of people in terms of mature, immature, you feel compassion. Still you can stay away from people who are, little bit troublesome or something, because you can't parent them, right?
Yes.
But you can keep away from them. You can manage them in some way. You can manipulate also. It's not bad to be manipulating sometimes with some people in the workplace with whom we have to take work. What else to do? There's no other way to handle them, right? So this art of manipulation. Kautilya wrote a book, Arthashastra. He was a great manipulator. But it's a great classic textbook, right? So we have to Art of War by Sun Tzu. Great Chinese book. So our children should read such books also. Ideas like, for a family, one person can be sacrificed. For a village, one family can be sacrificed. For a kingdom, a village can be sacrificed. This idea that sacrifice is also valid in some situations. See, Krishna taught Arjuna to fight as God, right? A lot of bloodshed also happened. But then it is required sometimes. So life is like that. We have to teach our children the complete package, not protect them too much from the darker side of life. Let them be exposed to dark side of life outside and within them. And don't pretend that I am a goddess. Reveal your dark side also to your child when you teach. Share your struggle with your desire to steal, or desire to tell a lie, or desire to do exactly what they are doing. You also were like that. So that they understand that she is your baby or he is your baby, and you are like, your mom only. You're not weird. You see what I'm saying?
Yes,
Some
sir.
parents may pretend that they are holier than thou because to maintain that image in front of the child. But that is ego. That is not parenting. It's like, a stupid person is in front of you, your own child, and you want to deceive them by hiding your own dark side. It's a very important part of parenting to reveal our own dark side. I do it all the time.
I've had this question so many times within my mind. So many times I've asked this to myself. Suddenly, the day baby is born, how could I become a very holy, pure person without any darkness?
You can never become a holy person without darkness. Krishna was dark complexioned. Shiva is dark complexioned. Why?
They do have their own dark side.
Our rishis are very wise people. They made our gods dark. Why? Even gods have darkness inside. So there is no purely holy person. Everything in Prakriti is made from Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. It's impossible to eliminate Tamas and not desirable to eliminate Tamas. For example, the body is tamasic. If you didn't have a body, let's say, people say, why God made this universe? If God did not make this universe, how will God know the taste of a chocolate? How will God know the joy of watching a movie? It is God in you watching the movie. It is God in you tasting the chocolate. So without tamas, how can you taste the chocolate? Because body is needed. So everything in nature is made intelligently. We have to understand the place of everything in nature. And that is called wisdom. I think I am giving very deep answers, but I hope it is helping.
Yes, actually, I should rewatch this video as you said, as like rereading that book because I would go deeper within myself after
See,
watching.
one mistake my students make. You are one of my best ever students. If you can make this mistake, what to tell about other students? So this mistake my students make often with respect to me is that what sir taught in this class is not relevant to me, or what sir taught in that class is not relevant to me, or sir is repeating himself. Don't make these three mistakes.
Sorry, sir.
Don't make these three mistakes. Never think that what sir taught in this class is not relevant to me, or in that class not relevant to me, or that I am repeating myself. It seems like that I am repeating myself, but I am never repeating myself.
No, sir. I meant that I should go and watch this video again.
No, I'm just trying to caution, not only you, all my students, that this is a mistake you will make.
Okay.
In my mind, I'm very clear why I'm doing what I'm doing. It is like I told, if there is a dark part within you in the subconscious, that will always haunt you, and that will always create trouble for you. So through lot of experience of so many years of teaching, I know how to approach the student's subconscious mind, how to help the students to approach their own subconscious mind. So I approach it from multiple perspectives. And sometimes it may seem to the student that this may be not relevant to me, that may not be relevant to me. Why? Because especially in those cases, the chances are that student is absolutely blind about that particular thing, because they can't relate to it consciously, which means it is hidden too much in the darkness. So especially the class where it seems very boring, that is the most relevant class to you, because it is colliding with something very deep and dense inside.
Yeah.
It's a general suggestion I'm telling you. In Bhagavad Gita, when I read for so many years, I told you, often the sections which were appearing very boring to me 20 years ago, they are now the most fascinating parts. It is not because the book was boring, I was immature. It's like that. Only when I gained more awareness, I can relate to that. It's like that. It is difficult to explain it in words, but it's a very intuitive thing I'm trying to share.
I get it. Like the things that are really maybe sometimes were highly difficult to understand, or maybe sometimes highly difficult to agree.
It is because wisdom is experiential in nature.
Challenging our own belief system.
Yeah, because you are experiencing something which seems to be contradicting what I'm teaching. But if you have faith in the teacher and believe that the teacher is very clear in their consciousness, then you can trust the teacher that what he is sharing is right. Maybe I am not mature enough right now to understand.
Yes.
That is a healthy attitude.
Yes.
Then thinking the teacher is wrong, that is unhealthy attitude. Healthy attitude is that maybe sir is saying something which I don't grasp right now, but let me take time. Maybe in 6 months, in 1 year, in 2 years, I'll be able to grasp. It's like that. Why? Because what I'm telling is based upon experiential knowledge. But right now, your system is not equipped to experience what I'm telling.
Exactly.
That is what it is. So, like I gave you one clue: bad versus good, white versus black, and rational, irrational. Now, it's an entry point. It's like a gate to the subconscious. One gate, there are many gates. One gate is this one. So, if you don't enter this gate, you will not be able to uncover that part of the unconscious where the good and bad reside. And if you're not able to do that, make this entry, then you will always suffer from guilt and shame and anxiety with respect to God. Because the human mind is like that. The moment you think it is a bad, idea of sin will come. Naturally. And when the idea of sin will come, guilt will come. And then shame will come. And then fear of God's anger will come. Especially when we are taught that God knows everything and God doesn't like sins, which is taught in most religions.
Yes.
So, all these things, if you are a believer in God, naturally sin, guilt, and fear of God will arise. But all three are useless emotions. God never judges anyone as bad because all are His children. So, fear of God is irrelevant. Love of God is very good. But then, love of God or love for God and then doing all kinds of nonsensical things is not a good, healthy approach. Because God may love you, but your subconscious mind will never forgive you. Because deep within us, there is something called conscience. The conscience is a part of the soul. It is inbuilt into the soul. Soul knows intrinsically what is good, what is not. So the soul will judge you. Okay. And you can't help but feel uncomfortable when you do something which is not in alignment with Dharma. So deep down, you may make your mind very rough and tough and very gross, but you cannot cheat the inner soul. But I'm not talking about the soul today. I'm talking about the ideas of good and bad.
Yes.
So soul may feel uncomfortable when we do something not in alignment with soul's knowledge. But at the same time, soul never abandons us. If soul were to abandon us, we'll not be able to live. Soul is the source of life in us. So it's like that. You may make n number of mistakes, but as long as your intention is not bad, then it's always better to think in terms of rational, irrational than good, bad. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
Because your good intention gives you a chance to make corrective measures, take corrective measures.
Yes.
That's the idea. So it's like that. So you give yourself benefit of doubt and benefit of faith, both. Benefit of doubt because you don't know today, but your intention is good. Benefit of faith because you know that you can grow in awareness tomorrow. So that you reach a place inside your inner being where you don't make such mistakes. Because there's too much awareness inside. So awareness is the ultimate solution to everything. But if we are not that aware today, we should not become depressed or give up hope. Okay, and I will end with the last statement we will make today. There is nothing more precious than awareness. Nothing. We say love is very powerful, but actually true love arises in an aware mind. Unless you are very aware, you cannot give unconditional love. Impossible. Because when you are truly self-aware, you know who God is and what God is. You have become enlightened, right? So from that awareness, nothing is bad and no one is bad. Only thing which remains is ignorance. Right. So then you feel compassion. You try to help others to awaken. Just because you have awakened, you feel love for whole humanity and you want them to awaken. And that is why all great teachers, are first people who have awakened within themselves. And then they are able to go out and teach with unconditional love. And people recognize that because it's coming from the soul. So your soul is able to grasp, isn't it? When you are face to face with an authentic person, your soul is able to grasp. And if someone is not authentic, your soul will feel weird. There will be something odd that you will feel. Sixth sense will tell you something wrong, isn't it? Am I right or not?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Conscious brain may not be able to grasp why I'm feeling uncomfortable, but your soul will know. So that is why we should trust the soul's guidance. Okay, I think enough for today.
Yes,
I'm so happy that you asked so many questions. I hope I could answer some of your questions, but
yes, actually, I couldn't attend few of classes in between, and I was a bit in dilemma whether I would be able to follow, because I just presumed that you would have gone more deeper. But still, I thought I should make it at least for this class, and I'm so glad that I attended this, because as an individual and also as a parent.
if you get time, you can watch those videos where you had missed, so that you are able to remain in touch with the flow of these sessions. So
Yes, sir, definitely. I watched few of them, but still I haven't finished others. So
you can
but
watch
I'm
10,
so
10 minutes.
glad, sir.
You can watch 15 minutes and 20 minutes like that, like
Yes, sir.
serials, so that you remain in touch. You remain in touch because I cannot keep repeating the same thing again and again.
Yes, sir. Yes, I completely. That's why I was wondering. But this session, I'm really glad, sir, because as an individual,
Your presence helps. I mean, all the good students, if you are there, it helps. So it's okay. But I understand. Everyone is now busy, so it's okay. So that is why we record the classes, so that whenever you're free, you can watch. Right?
it's because of my toddler. I don't want to give reasons, but sometimes her sleep timings and our classes
It's okay. I
don't match.
understand.
That's
I
why.
understand. But when you get time, you can watch
Of
those
course, of
sessions
course.
that you have missed. Okay.
Thank
Also,
you so much,
in
sir.
the group, you can be more interactive. You could raise questions, raise topics, raise opinions, so
Yes,
that other
sure.
students who
I'll
are
do that.
juniors, they may also feel inspired like that.
Sure, sure, sir.
Okay.
And personally, I would like to thank sir, because I don't know how I conveyed before, but but what I tried to say was I learned a lot of things today as an individual and also as a parent. I would like lot of dots, and I would like to just ingest them, spend some time, as you said, reflect on them. Because
You could watch my answers again, your questions again,
exactly,
because
sir.
it is being
Even
recorded.
I don't know how you would, what you think of your answer, but that simple thing, replacing good, bad with rational, irrational, it's a very big thing for me. So because and you also mentioned that we could, implement this kind of perspective, use this perspective even towards adults. And that's also an even more powerful perspective for me, sir, because it takes away all the negativity that creates between other people, because we tend to look at even immature behavior as irrational ones rather than as bad ones. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, because a bad person cannot be changed,
Yes, sir.
but an ignorant person can be changed
Change.
through knowledge.
Yes.
Through knowledge. All right. Okay. Very good. Thank you.
I feel like having had a very awesome meal, like full of a lot of thoughts and lot of new perspectives.
Yeah, as I told you, this perspective is an entry point to the subconscious. There are
Yes.
many entry points. This is one.
Yes.
Language is very powerful. Language is very powerful because you frame thoughts in language. And for each thought, corresponding feelings arise.
Yes.
So when you are interpreting some behavior as bad, you feel anger. But when you feel some behavior as coming from ignorance, you feel compassion for that person.
Exactly, sir.
You wish that he knew better.
Knew better.
That is not anger, that is compassion.
Yes.
So in the first case, you spoil your relationship with other person, but in the second case, you can still live with that person
Yes,
without feeling, violent hatred for that person.
yes, sir.
That's a great difference, right?
Yes, sir. Very great difference, sir.
Okay, Sneha. Okay,
Thank
good
you
night.
so much, sir.
Okay, good night.
How are you doing, sir? Because
Good,
I
good,
saw
good.
in
Good, by
how's
God's
your
grace.
health?
Good,
And
good, good.
thank you so much for this service, sir, because it really means it changes a lot of people's lives.
Yeah, I hope
Your
so.
students as well as people around your students' lives.
I hope so. So, I mean, I personally feel very happy doing it because in a way, I can unload whatever I have learned. So, and it will be remaining there on the YouTube, because it's being recorded. So I also know that, even later point of time, someone may watch. Who knows whose life can be touched. So I don't have a staff or something. My son is doing all these things. So that is why I can't
Exactly,
make
sir.
lot of small videos out of, because I give so many insights.
Yes,
My
sir.
son being a student, and he can't give more time. He's already giving a lot of time. So, but then I am doing my best, right? I can't afford to hire a staff or something for these things. So maybe in future, if it is possible, I may do it. Then maybe these videos can become small pieces, and then let us see
Yes,
how things go. But anyways, I'm doing my best as
yes.
possible. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Good
Good
night.
night, sir.
Good night. Bye.
Bye, sir.